Hi, my name is Ken Kring. Many companies are drowning in data. Drowning in data because they don't know how to get the most out of all the data they have access to, because they don't know how it all fits together. Getting the most out of all your data is only possible through the use of integrated thinking. What follows shows you the benefits of integrated thinking and what you can do about it. Enjoy. Here's something to think about. We teach, write, and work in silos, and then we're mystified we have a problem with siloed thinking? Really? Come on. Here's another way to think about it. We can split atoms, we can transplant hearts, but we can't figure out how marketing, finance, operations, and customers all fit together? Really? Come on. You can have all the data in the world, but if you don't know what to do with it, then what's the point? Financially, the data will just look like an expense for having to store it all. For data to be worth something, you have to do something with it. And even though we might know how it is all stored and documented, for some reason it still isn't clear what it is we should really be doing with all of it. To solve this riddle regarding what to do with all of this data, some turn to KPIs or key performance indicators. Some turn to scorecards and still others turn to dashboards. All of this does make the data more visually appealing. However, when looking at the data, it's hard to tell if this number is supposed to be 5 times higher than this other number. How do all of these numbers even relate to each other? And given red, yellow, green coloring schemes used sometimes, how are we supposed to best prioritize all of these different colored items? It's impossible to know this. It's impossible to do this without knowing how it all fits together. Another way people try to solve this data riddle is by going to business conferences over and over and over again. However, it is troubling. Troubling that you can go to business conferences for decades and see different people all ask the exact same questions over and over and over again, which leaves you to wonder, what wasn't done right or answered right the first time that requires the same questions to be asked and answered over and over and over again? The key to getting the most out of your functional silos and getting the most out of all the data you have access to is anchoring it all into an integrated thinking framework. Without anchoring business initiatives into a larger framework of integrated thinking, many business initiatives have the same staying power as the output of a confetti cannon. Whee! It's all fun and games for a while. But 2 weeks later, you're left vacuuming up all the little bits and left wondering, what was that all about? Many companies don't need to look much farther than their latest cultural initiative that typically doesn't last any longer than 4 to 6 months to understand how unanchored initiatives can quickly melt away. Integrated thinking solves all of this. The end result of disintegrated thinking is a lack of alignment in the efforts of everyone, confusion, inefficiency, low productivity, low employee engagement, a lack of agility, the deceleration of almost everything, and it goes on and on and on. There really is only one primary goal in business, and that's to drive profitable behaviors. The profitable behaviors of the customers, the profitable behaviors of the employees, and all of this is best done by knowing what your puzzle box lid looks like. Behold the power of integrated thinking, and behold the power of knowing what your puzzle box lid looks like. A relatively easy and quick way to understand the value of integrated thinking is to do a quick exercise. Take 3 groups of people and have each group assemble the exact same jigsaw puzzle. The first group with the puzzle pieces face down, the second group with the puzzle pieces face up, and the third group with the puzzle pieces face up and a copy of the puzzle box lid. Which group is going to be the happiest, the fastest, the most productive? The group with the puzzle box lid. It's important that you know what your puzzle box lid looks like. Another way to think about the power of integrated thinking is that life, business, data, just about everything is all like a Seurat oil painting. It's nothing but a series of dots. But if you know how all the dots fit together and you take a step back, you can clearly see the larger picture. Like the river, the park, the woman with the parasol, that little monkey she brings with her everywhere. Who does that? Brings a little monkey with them everywhere. In a conversation with the head of an analytics department, he complained about feeling like an order taker. He said, I get a request for a report, I generate the report, I deliver the report. We're doing thousands of reports. We probably only need to do hundreds of reports. But I'm not brought into the process early enough to be able to help fix this. I am looked at as a punch press operator. In the conversation with the head of analytics, I laid out the framework he could use to leverage the power of integrated thinking. He got excited early in the conversation and said, if we only knew how it all fit together, we could deliver fewer but better and more useful reports. So how do we fix all of this? The answer is in business strategy mapping, or to put it another way, integrated thinking. The power of leveraging how it all fits together. The framework you are going to see shows how marketing, finance, and operations all fit together. It was initially designed years ago. It started with a conversation with the CEO. As we were leaving a meeting, he asked, "How do you think we should best grow the company?" I went on to let him know what it is I thought we should do. He paused and thought about the answers for a bit, and then he said, "What I really need to know is how do I best invest in the company?" When I went to give him an answer, I had to pause and say, "That is a very different question." In answering the question for the CEO regarding how do I best invest in the company, it quickly dawned on me that unless I knew how the decisions in Area A affected the decisions in Area B and how they impacted the whole given the flow of the business, I wasn't going to be able to tell how to best invest in the company. Now, the CEO's company was set up like so many other companies in functional silos: marketing, finance, operations, etc., and each of the different business units cut across those silos. Now, functional silos are great for the efficiencies they bring. You can't get those efficiencies any other way. But business cuts across those silos to get real work done. So, for goodness sakes, let's know how they all fit together. Since the siloed view of the company didn't really address how to best invest in the company, it didn't show how all the decisions fit together. It was necessary to start from scratch and understand how the business and the business decisions flowed from potential to profitability and the points in between. It quickly became apparent that it wasn't just profitability for the company, but profitability for the customer too. Some people are a bit confused when you talk about profitability for the customer. Profitability for the customer is the difference between what they're willing to pay for an item and what it is they actually pay for the item. If people value things exactly at the same amount as they pay for them, then they are really indifferent as to whether they buy those things or not. A quick exercise we do at conferences to illustrate the concept of profitability for the customer is to ask someone, "What's the most you're willing to pay for a gallon of milk?" before they won't buy milk anymore, and everybody sells it only in gallons, and they all sell it for the same price. On average, it works out to be $7, which means if people value milk at $7 a gallon and they pay $3 a gallon for it, on average, the profitability for the customer is $4. That's how customer profitability works. And you need to take profitability for the customer into account because both the company and the customer need to win. If one doesn't win, neither wins because one will walk away from the other. Here's another way to look at it. Business, products, projects, opportunities all move from potential to profitability and the points in between. That is profitability for the company and profitability for the customer. But there needs to be a balancing point. Without a balancing point, you get companies calling in motivational speakers to cheer, rah, rah, rah. Our customers are our number one priority. And later on that same week, the CEO will cheer, rah, 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 that our shareholders are our number one priority. Profitability for the customer usually resonates with the marketing department. The profitability for shareholders usually resonates with the finance department. And if you don't articulate a balancing point, you get turf wars, which reduces the overall value or profitability delivered for everyone. You also get a lack of alignment in the efforts of people across the company, confusion, discontentment, etc., etc., etc. The benefits of the balancing point is that it gives a clear sense of a shared direction, again, making everyone happier, faster, more productive. It's this lack of a balancing point that causes a huge difference between a mission statement and a good mission statement. Let's say that you have a company and that it's in San Diego, and you say our mission, our vision is we're going to head east. Some employees will stop in Texas and say this is where you meant right. Some employees will stop in Maine and say this is where you meant right. Or if you gave it 90 more minutes of thought, just 90 more minutes of thought, you could have instead said, our mission, our vision is to be at the corner of State and Madison in Chicago at 12:15 on a Thursday. The employees in Texas will know how to correct. The employees in Maine will know how to correct. And your overseas suppliers to whom East meant something totally different, they'll know how to correct. Why? Because you took the time to articulate a unifying star on the horizon and not just saying the word East. This is the power of knowing how it all fits together. It's easier to visually and intuitively understand how it all fits together by using the phrases with what we're given, what do we do about it, What are the results? And how successful are we? There are others that may feel uneasy about this conversational approach. For those people, you can say, given the situational analysis, what is the action plan? How are we going to measure results? And how are we going to evaluate results? However you say it, the importance is in sharing a common purpose or picture that will boost the alignment of efforts throughout the entire company, again, making everyone happier, faster, and more productive. In a bit, you're going to see slides with boxes and lines on them. The important thing to understand about the boxes and lines is that they're there just as a visual representation of a conversation about how businesses and business opportunities flow from potential to profitability and the points in between. This conversation just goes into slightly greater detail regarding what we mean when we say, with what we're given, what do we do about it, what are the results, and how successful were we? Expanding on the idea of with what we are given, we first want to find the subject that we want to drive from potential to profitability and the points in between. In this example, let's say it's a company we work for and the company makes widgets. And the reason we're filling out this business strategy map is to understand how all these pieces fit together, to understand how it all fits together to best align our efforts in optimizing the way we run this widget company. After defining the subject and the objective of filling out the business strategy map, the next step is, what does the playing field look like? The playing field being the customer, the company, the competition, and any other environmental factors. The next step is understanding what the objectives are, the objectives of the business and the customers. We need to understand the objectives of both because they both need to win. If one doesn't win, then neither wins because one will walk away from the other. Each step in the process is built on the step before it. The next step is to understand what the customers perceive as valuable, that is, given the customer and business objectives, and given the playing field, and given the subject above. And finally, what's the overall potential of it all? It's fun to think of the potential as profit pools. Profit tends to collect in pools, so if you understand the size, shape, and location of your profit pool, or profit pools, so you'll best know how to drill into those pools to extract the maximum amount of value possible. Now that we have covered with what we are given, we move on to what do we do about it. What do we do about it has three major pieces. What do we offer given everything above? How do we hook the customers all the way to the value delivered given everything above? And what are the key learnings given everything up to this point? When we talk about what it is we offer, it turns out to be 3 out of the 4 or 5 marketing P's, depending upon who it is you read. It's the product and the pricing and the placement. The placement is also known as the distribution of the product. When we talk about hooking customers, it's how do we hook them from head to heart. What I mean by that is how do we get from the customer's head for them to learn about our product? How do we get to their smile to like it? How do we get to their hands or feet to do something about it? And finally, how do we get to the heart for loyalty so they continue to repurchase and recommend to others? Again, it's all about hooking the customer from head to heart. How do we best win over the whole customer? Here's where it picks up a little bit of speed. We talked about with what it is we're given, and then what it is we do about it. And now we move on to what are the results. The results being, what are the revenues of all of our activities? What are the costs of all of our activities? And what is the overall profitability of it all? Again, we talked about with what we're given, what do we do about it, and what are the results, which means we then move on to how successful were we. How successful were we is made up of 3 segments. What are the potential future trends? What is the total value delivered to the shareholders of the company? And finally, and this is probably the most important point, what is the balancing point between the total value delivered to the shareholders and the total value delivered to the customers? Again, the reason this balancing point is so important is because it allows everyone to clearly align their efforts on shooting for a shared star off on the horizon. Without the balancing point, people are misaligned, frustrated, and inefficient. With the balancing point, people are happier, faster, and more productive as they all shoot toward a shared goal. Again, the next slide you're going to see is just a conversation to make it easier to visually and intuitively see how businesses and opportunities flow from potential to profitability and the points in between. The conversation is now going to be made up of boxes and lines. It's the same conversation we talked about. It's now just visually represented. This makes it easier to quickly see how to fill in blanks to see how your business works, to fill in blanks in business cases, to fill in blanks for product development and investment decisions, and see how all of the dots fit together to see what your puzzle box lid looks like. On this slide, you're going to see the same conversation we had a moment ago. The subject you are looking to drive from potential to profitability and the points in between, what the playing field looks like, the customer, the company, the competition, and other environmental factors, what the objectives are for the business and for the customers, what the customers perceive as valuable, the potential, which can also be referred to as profit pools, what it is that you offer, how do you hook customers from head to heart. For this boxes and lines version, it's how do we get them to learn about your product, which is their head, how do you get them to like your product, which is their smile, how do you get to their hands or feet to do something about it, purchase, repurchase, how do you craft the overall experience, and finally to the total value delivered to the customer and the customer's heart for loyalty, to get them to repurchase and recommend to others. This all leads to the financial measures of price, quantity given what you can collect equaling revenues, fixed costs and variable costs equaling total costs, revenues minus total costs equaling total earnings or profitability, perceived future trends, the total value to the company or to the shareholders, and finally, and probably most important, the balancing point. The balancing point between the total value delivered to the customer and the total value delivered for the company. It would be great to go into greater detail regarding all of this, but that would be best done through a series of videos. More detail can, however, be found in the book Business Strategy Mapping the Power of Knowing How It All Fits Together. After you have read the book, please share it with others. We need people to quickly become much better at integrated thinking, so we can all be happier, faster, and more productive. This is what the framework looks like, broken up into the 4 parts of with what we're given, what do we do about it, what are the results, and how successful were we. Years ago, I was working with the president of a company and showed him the framework. I said, "This is really great for helping me figure out strategy." He said, "I don't see strategy on here." I thought to myself, what? So I added the shaded boxes to make it explicit regarding where some of the strategies and objectives live within the framework. You can think of your objectives as acting as strategy anchors. You set them at the beginning, you design around them in the middle, you execute them at the end, and you evaluate against them at the very end. On this image, you'll see the start of your operational strategy near what it is you offer, the end result of your marketing strategy by the value delivered to the customer. The reason I say the end result of your marketing strategy is because different people will start their marketing strategies in different places, sometimes going all the way back to the playing field. You can see the end result of the financial strategy near the value delivered to the company or the shareholders. The reason we say the end result of your financial strategy is because different people will start their financial strategies in different places, sometimes going all the way back to the playing field. There is even the customer strategy regarding whether they decide to make a trial purchase or repurchase. Putting these 5 pieces together, you can then generate what your balance strategy looks like near the star. That is the strategy you are to articulate that allows everyone to shoot for a shared, common, clear goal off on the horizon. This is what makes it easier for everybody to all align their efforts toward a common purpose and makes them happier, faster, and more productive. Again, whether you are the CEO, the janitor, or anyone in between, our job, directly or indirectly, is all about driving profitable behaviors. The profitable behaviors of both the customers and the employees. But when looking to drive profitable behaviors, it's important to first understand what it is that drives behaviors. It turns out it's perceptions that drive behaviors. This 6-step fill-in-the-blank exercise will help give you a laser-like focus on how to drive profitable behaviors. The best way to go ahead and read this is as follows. It turns out that your customers' current perceptions drive their current behaviors, and that the perceptions you desire for the customer will drive the behaviors you desire for the customer. And if you explicitly identify the primary actionable barrier that stands in the way of getting the whole thing to flip, you can then explicitly design targeted, focused solutions to overcome the primary actionable barrier, to then shift perceptions to drive behaviors. That makes this an incredibly powerful methodology. It also works for internal customers too. If you're trying to influence the behavior of a senior executive, the current perceptions of the senior executive influence and drive the current behaviors of the senior executives. The perceptions you desire for the senior executive will drive the behaviors you desire for the senior executive. And if you understand that primary actionable barrier that stands in the way of getting their perceptions to go ahead and flip for the senior executive, you can then internally design targeted focused solutions to overcome the specific primary actionable barrier to drive the behavior of the senior executive. Many times in business, I have had to use this framework to drive the behavior of the senior executives first, so I could then get approval and funding to drive the behaviors of the customers. So now that you have an idea as to how this all fits together and how to drive profitable behaviors, the next question is, how do you then practically use this? It turns out this framework is incredibly flexible at helping you determine how everything fits together at different points within your planning and action initiatives. For example, this can be used as a discovery tool to uncover and describe the current state of the business or opportunity, a diagnostic tool to highlight areas of opportunity and risk, a prescriptive tool to generate and articulate recommended courses of action, a treatment tool acting as a guide when executing courses of action and communicating it to others, a measurement tool to monitor progress, and even an evaluation tool to gauge relative level of success of an effort and give clues as to when to re-examine your efforts in the next quarter. So how do you implement this? Start with the issue you want to understand better. Use existing information. Goals, initiatives, and measures are a great place to start. Concentrate on areas of greatest concern first. Initially be brief. The process should go pretty quickly. There's even a worksheet you can use, a worksheet that will allow you to quickly fill in the blanks to build your business strategy map, to know how all of your data and business initiatives fit together for any opportunity you want to drive from potential to profitability and the points in between. You can think of filling out this worksheet as playing 20 questions 1.5 times. You can receive a free copy of the worksheet by simply sending a request for one to the email address above. Feel free to also send along any questions or comments you have. As a business geek, I love this stuff. And we all need to more quickly get to a place where we all understand integrated thinking much better. Again, the upside being that we will all be better aligned and happier, faster, and more productive. Again, data is one of your most important assets. Many companies are drowning in data, but they don't know what to do with it all. Knowing what to do with all of your data has at least 3 great benefits. Everyone's going to be happier, faster, more productive. It's easier to crush all those who oppose you, and it's much easier to drive profitable behaviors. Getting back to the conversation with the head of analytics, after working with him for 45 minutes through a detailed version of the framework, kind of like the worksheet, he said to me, "Now that I know how it all fits together, I don't feel like an order taker anymore. Others now see me as an intellectual resource, kind of like an internal consultant. And because of this, I'm now brought into projects much sooner to help out on the front end. And regarding reporting, the same people are requesting a report. But instead of just giving them a report, I now determine not just what they ask for, but what it is they really need, informed, of course, by knowing how all the data and initiatives fit together. The end result being, I deliver fewer but much better and more impactful reports." I could tell from our conversation that the head of analytics was again happier, faster, and more productive. And isn't that what we all really want? How it all fits together informs how we organize, analyze, and execute on big data, transform data analysis into actionable insights and strategic planning, better understand data quality, effectively prepare and present data, ensure best practices for data translation and interpretation, get more out of our predictive analysis and advanced modeling techniques, as well as evolving techniques and tools in data analysis. It also informs how we leverage a cross-functional integrated approach to data and business, optimize portfolio management decisions, improve product development and category management, manage projects including project proposals, answer what makes a trend that legitimizes strategic action, distinguish between fad versus sustainable trend, easily and definitively negotiate project scope with the end users. This particularly helps against scope creep, which happens in so many projects. Be a respected internal consultant, drive change that motivates people to own the change, and again, best drive profitable behaviors. Thank you for taking the time to view this video on how to get the most out of big data by leveraging integrated thinking to know how it all fits together. Please share this with your friends, your coworkers, any educators you know, and please let me know if you have any questions. The sooner we make better use of all the data around us, the happier, faster, and more productive we'll all be. And finally, a little bit about me. My name is Ken Crane. Over the years, I've worked on both the client and agency sides of business, including Walmart, Walgreens, Sears and Kmart, Discover Financial Services, FCB, and others. The work I do is always designed to make everyone happier, faster, and more productive. Happier, faster, and more productive by making it visually clear as to how to best drive the profitable behaviors of both the customers and the employees. I speak at a range of conferences and workshops. Some of the topics include driving profitable growth through integrated thinking, optimizing product innovation and management, total customer experience design. One of my favorites is this one, big data great, now what do we do with it all? Other topics include employee analytics and insights, linking people and business metrics, financial optimization, getting the most out of all of your resources, mergers and acquisitions, optimizing your portfolio, and customized company and issue-specific topics. Again, it's easier to go much farther, much faster when you can see how all of the pieces fit together. If you have any questions or comments or would like a free copy of the worksheet, feel free to reach out to me at the email address listed at the top of this page. And once again, thank you for taking the time to view this video, and please share it with others. Thanks.